This is Financially Fit Radio with Cory Sickles from Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors. Retirement isn't just about saving, it's about having a strategy that helps you navigate market ups and downs, combat inflation, and secure the future you deserve. That's why Financially Fit Radio is here to tackle your biggest financial concerns, share actionable strategies, and help you move toward your retirement goals with confidence. And now, here's Financially Fit Radio with Cory Sickles.
Welcome back to another episode of Financially Fit Radio. I'm Cory Sickles with Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors. If you have any questions or need any additional information about anything we discussed today, feel free to give us a call at 614-760-0670, or you can always visit us online at safeharboroh.com. And while you're on our website, feel free to check out today's show on our radio page. You can also listen to previous episodes. You can also subscribe to our podcast, which is actually on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or Spotify. Also, feel free to watch today's show on our YouTube channel. Just type in Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors. You can go to our Financially Fit playlist. And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll be kept up to date when we do release new shorts. We do about 4 or 5 shorts a week on different types of financial topics to help educate you. And just remember, when you do call and schedule a complimentary meeting with us, when you do call in and schedule complimentary, all meetings are complimentary and there's no financial obligation. We're here to truly help you to make sure that you have the best retirement that you possibly can. Now, today I want to talk about something that happens quite often, and that is when you actually inherit money. And we're going to discuss some of the ways that you can handle an inherited IRA without making any costly mistakes. But before we dive into that, let me introduce to you my co-host this week and every week, and that's Tony Shore. Tony, how are you today?
Well, good. Thank you, Cory. Great to be here once again. And I've just been, we were talking before the show, we're both very busy, traveling, work, family. There's a lot going on, and it's been a busy summer. In fact, the summer's almost over, Cory.
It is. You know, Tony, I just got back from Colorado, or Springboat Springs, Colorado.
Steamboat, right?
Oh, yeah. Steamboat Springs, Colorado.
Right.
You know, it's my first day back in the office, Tony. So,
yeah,
yes.
We'll cut you some slack.
I'm still a little dazed there. Yeah,
we'll
Steamboat.
cut you some slack.
Yeah, Steamboat Springs.
Yeah.
You know, I went out there with my nephews and niece, and you know what? They asked me, "Hey, are you a beach or a mountain person?" And, I always kind of thought I was more of a beach person, but I got to tell you, it was kind of fun to be, up in the mountains and being able to go hiking, and went to a rodeo out there, had a nice little time out there in Steamboat.
Yeah, I absolutely, my family over the two, beach or mountains or Colorado, like if you said, somewhere with a beach or Colorado, they'd pick Colorado every time, or the mountains.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's more of who we are. I personally, I love, Key West. I love, certain locations in Mexico. That's fun too, but I think that's more if it was just Sarah and I for a few days, my wife and I. But if it's the whole family, we're going to the North Woods, of Minnesota, up in the Superior North Woods area, or we're going out to Colorado. That's just a little more who we are, but everybody's different. Some people just like to lay in the sun or lounge around the pool, but man, when you go up into those mountains, it's great.
It is great. Interesting part, we're out there trying to, look at some wildlife. Never really did see too much wildlife at all. Saw one moose, but, yeah, it was a good time. Looking forward to, maybe doing a mountain trip or a mountain vacation, sometime soon as well.
Yeah. My family's last really big. Well, we went to Palm Springs this year, but a couple of years ago, we went to Colorado. We did the whole thing. We stayed near Aspen at an Airbnb, and we did the whitewater rafting and the hiking, and it was beautiful. I mean, it's so beautiful. Colorado. I love Colorado. Just, I can't say enough about trips to Colorado. So if you're listening or watching this and you haven't taken a nice vacation and explored Colorado, it's well worth it, I think.
Yeah, it is well worth it. We had a good time out there.
All right. So if you're a beneficiary on an IRA, there's a lot you need to know. Right?
There is a lot that you need to know. And what I want to, let's just kind of talk about, what are the options when you do inherit an IRA? I
Sure.
think that's the first part before we kind of discussing what you actually have to do.
Sure.
So basically, if you're a spouse and your spouse passes away, you actually can just do a name change on your IRA. So yes, you are inherited in an IRA, but if it's in your husband's name or if it's in your wife's name, you can simply just do a name change of all that. Then it just operates just like your regular IRA would. So it's pretty simple on that standpoint. Where it gets a little bit more complicated is if it's a non-spouse, Tony.
Yeah.
When it's a non-spouse, now you have two options. You can take a lump sum. So I would just use $100,000 as an example.
Sure.
So if you take a lump sum, that all $100,000 is going to be taxed. It's going to go on to whatever you currently make. And it's going to go, it's probably going to increase your tax bracket at that point in time. You can actually you can cash it out, pay the taxes, and call it a day, reinvest it, do whatever you want to do.
But you're going to lose you could lose like 30%. I mean, that you're not
Depends
going
on
to
your
get
tax bracket. If it puts you in a 32% tax bracket, then 32% of the money's gone.
So you're going to get less than 70,000 out of that 100,000. In that
That's
case.
correct. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Or, it puts you in a 24% tax bracket or whatever that might end up being, right? Option two is you actually create an inherited IRA account, which means it's in your name, but it's still also in who you actually inherited that IRA's name in. Now, one of the things that actually happened with that, Tony, is in the Secure Act that actually passed a few years ago. They actually changed that now to where you actually have to now take that out over a 10-year period. Now, there are some exceptions to that. If you're a minor or if maybe you have a disability and things like that. But the majority of the people out there that are going to receive the inherited IRA is going to have to take that out over a 10-year period. Now, obviously what that can do for you is it can be a benefit because, yes, you're still getting the same amount of money, the $100,000, but you get to invest that now over a 10-year period. And now you actually have 10 years to be able to take that out.
Yeah, and you're probably going to want to spread that out and not take it all at once because of the tax implications. You want to spread out that tax burden so you don't get bumped up into a higher tax bracket, right?
That's correct. Now there's a couple ways to try to do that. One is you could actually take out what they call a required minimum distribution.
Okay.
You have to take out a required minimum distribution every year. So you got to take something out on, every year over that 10-year period. But let's just say the required minimum distribution based upon your age and based upon the age of the previous owner, let's just say you got to take, $5,000 a year out of that, for example. Yep. Well, if you take $5,000 a year out, you can see then on the 10th year, right, you're going to have a lot more of a tax burden because now you've only taken out the minimum distributions. So, one of the things that we actually do with our clients, Tony, in most cases is we invest the money based upon whatever the risk level is for that client. And normally what we'll do is we'll take out, after during that first year, we'll take out 10%. We'll basically take out 10% on an annual basis. So when that actually hits in year 10, it's about the same amount of money over that 10-year period. Now, obviously, everyone's situation is different. Maybe you're working today and maybe 5 or 6 years from now, you're going to be in retirement. That could be a retirement income. Everyone's situation is a little bit different. But I think what you want to be able to do is be able to anticipate what your taxes are going to be. And the easy way to be able to do that is try to spread those payments evenly out over a 10-year period, if that does make sense.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. But to know that 10-year rule is important. It used to be even better. You could stretch it longer, right? It was called the stretch IRA, and you
could stretch it over your lifetime.
Yeah, but they changed that.
They did change that. Yeah. That's one of those things where they didn't raise taxes, Tony, but they did.
Right.
What I'm really talking about, is the Senate and the House when they passed the Secure Act, they put this bill in there, put this section in there. And believe me, it does increase taxes because now you're going to be able to guarantee that inherited IRA now taxes being paid over a 10-year time frame instead of over someone's lifetime.
Yeah.
So you're exactly right. So what happens if all of a sudden you forget to take your required minimum distribution out, Tony?
You pay a penalty, I bet.
You do pay a penalty, and that penalty can be up to 25% of what you should have taken.
Wow.
So
That's a hefty,
it's very important to.
Plus, you have to pay the taxes on top of it anyway.
That's exactly right.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, not good.
So, so the one thing you definitely don't want to do is forget about taking required minimum distributions. Now, initially, back in 2020, when this was passed, a lot of people there was kind of confusion on whether you actually had to take out a required minimum distribution over the 10-year period. The IRS has come out. This is actually the first year, I believe, or last year was the first year, where you are definitely required to take out something on an annual basis during that 10-year period.
Yeah. Well, and that's great. So I think that when you're dealing with this, there seems to be a lot of rules. You can get deep in the weeds once again. So our listeners and viewers should take advantage of your offer of a no charge, no obligation consultation, because you don't want to do this alone. You need to work with a trusted financial services professional to help you figure out what's the most cost-effective way. How can I minimize my tax burden and not make an expensive mistake with this, right?
I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, one of the things that you want to be able to do by working with a financial professional, we're going to look at your unique situation. Does it make more sense to take it out over a 10-year period, or maybe take it out over a 5-year period? When are you going to retire? Maybe you're to the retirement age. That could actually be retirement income. So there's a lot of things that we can actually do that's going to be, we can come up with some recommendations that's going to be unique to you, and it's going to be the best solution for you in order to make sure that you're paying the least amount of taxes when we start talking about inherited IRAs.
Yeah.
We talk on the show all the time, Tony, about an IRA. Just because you have $1 million in it doesn't mean you have $1 million, right? And it gets a lot more complicated if that inherited IRA is $1 million rather than $100,000.
Well, yeah, it gets more
right?
and more complicated as you go. And again, it's a joint account with Uncle Sam. It's not all your money.
That's exactly right. And there's really no way to get around, paying the taxes.
Yep.
I was reading the other day that you do have the option. You have within the 9-month period, you can actually say, I don't even want the inherited IRA. I don't know where it would actually go, but it's a pretty complicated process. But you can, just say, I do not want it.
That's funny.
Which means it's just going to go to the other beneficiaries. And but I've never actually had anyone that said they didn't want it.
Right.
But I guess that situation always could pop up. Now, the one thing I do want to kind of talk about, Tony, too, is let's talk a little bit about what happens now if we talked about the traditional IRA.
Yeah.
Now, what happens if you're actually inherited a Roth IRA?
Ah, a Roth.
So obviously, with the traditional IRA, you got to pay taxes on it, right?
Full taxes on the whole amount. Yeah.
With a Roth IRA, as long as it's been in there for at least 5 years and they're over the age of 59 and a half, makes the things a lot simpler. But here's the nice part about it is you actually have 10 years in order to take that out. The nice part about a Roth IRA is it comes back to you tax-free.
So you don't have to pay taxes for it, but you can still leave it in there and let it grow.
Yes.
Over a 10-year period if you want.
That's exactly right.
Wow. Okay. So you get that growth, but you don't have to pay any taxes on it.
Yeah. And I believe, you normally don't have to take out, a required minimum distribution when we start talking about Roth IRAs. But it's very important that you understand that, yes, you do have a 10-year period, but here's the most important part about it. It comes to you tax-free, and you can also let that thing grow tax-free during that 10-year period.
Yeah, that's huge. That is huge. So, but there are so many rules and with inherited IRAs that are even a little different than the rules for an inherited Roth are a little different than the rules for a regular Roth IRA that you have on your own. So you have to work with somebody like yourself. It's just,
right.
you don't want to make a mistake because that can be costly.
Yeah, it can be very costly. And, one of the things that we do for our clients, Tony, which is very important, whether it's inherited IRA or a inherited Roth IRA, or if you're over the age of, 73, is, we do make sure that our clients are taking out their required minimum distributions on an annual basis. I think that's something that's very important. You don't want to have penalties on it. You want to make sure that you're taking out what you should be taking out on an annual basis. And that's really one of the things that you're doing is paying us a fee. You're paying us or to work with you, and we want to make sure that you're doing all the right things to make sure that you're taking care of taking your requireds out, paying the taxes that you should be paying, and hopefully paying the minimum amount of taxes because we actually have a financial plan for you as well.
Sure. So you've talked about some of the mistakes already. Now, there are differences between the if you're a spouse or a non-spouse, right? So if you're a spouse, if I inherit my wife's IRA or she inherits mine, she can just make that IRA her own. But if I inherit an IRA from my parents, I have to jump through more hoops, right? I can't just take over that IRA. I have to follow the 10-year rule, and I have to abide by all those rules. I can't just turn it into my own IRA, right?
I think you brought up a good point, Tony. So let's just say you inherit an IRA from your spouse.
Sure.
But you're going to do a name change.
Yep.
So now it's going to be in your name.
Okay.
Which means now you can actually contribute to your own IRA. Maybe you're not retired yet for whatever reason. You want to add your annual amount into it. You can add to it. Now, let's just say it's a non-spouse, and now it's an inherited IRA. You can't actually add to that going forward. It's not really in your name. It's still in the name of the person you inherit. It's in your name, but it also has that person's that actually passed away's name on that actual account too. So you can't add to that at all. The only thing you can do is take withdrawals out.
Yeah.
And you have to do that over a 10-year period. Again, there are some exceptions to that. But one of the things that we do is when someone passes away, Tony, they have different types of accounts with us, potentially. They might have a Roth account. We kind of talked to how you can do an inherited Roth account if it's a non-spouse. If it's an IRA, you can do an inherited that as well. And then you can also have a non-qualified account. A non-qualified account, in most cases, means that they've already paid the tax on it.
Sure.
And that might be a situation where it does make sense to take a lot of that money out because in most cases, you have what we call a step-up basis. And let me explain what I mean by that. So let's just say you inherit $100,000. And it's a non-qualified account, which means they've already paid the tax on it. But let's just say that they only put $50,000 in that account, but it grew to 100, right? So if the previous owner cashes that out, they potentially have $50,000 worth of some type of capital gain, whether it's short-term or long-term. However, if you inherit that money, right, and it goes directly to you, you actually now don't have to pay any part of that taxes from that growth. So that even though they put $50,000 in, it grew to $100,000, you actually can walk away with $100,000 if they did everything the right way. So in some cases, Tony, when someone passes away, you have different types of accounts. You might even have life insurance, which most cases comes to you tax-free. So you have to be able to make sure that you're actually setting up the new accounts the correct way, and that you're paying, again, you want to make sure that you're setting all that stuff up to make sure that you're going to pay the least amount of taxes now as well as going forward over the next few years as well. And that's one of the things that we do is you have to sit down when someone passes away, Tony, with their family and say, here are your options. And part of that is what is my tax liability? Everyone wants, no one wants to pay more than they possibly can. And that's why we're going to say, hey, for account A, this is what we recommend. Account B, this is what we recommend. And account C, this is what we recommend. Everyone's situation is different, but when we do sit down with our beneficiaries for, their parents or grandparents or whoever's accounts they are, you have to know what your options are. And hopefully the financial advisor you're working with is going to go through that process with you.
And be looking at the big picture and the tax implications for even later, especially if you're in retirement. Because if you inherit an IRA and you're already in retirement or over the age of 65, that could affect your Medicare payments because of IRMA. Your Medicare payments could go up, right?
Yep.
And it could affect affect how much of your Social Security is subject to tax. So you can make really costly mistakes if you don't do this right. You've got to consider your tax bracket, your personal situation. You got to work with a financial professional. You don't want to forget those required minimum distributions. And you started off, you got to understand that 10-year rule. I just think it's really important for people to understand tax implications and inheriting things. And it's not just, we're talking today about IRAs, but some of the same rules apply. I was looking at it when my dad inherited my grandpa's farm. The step up in basis, you have to look at that when you inherit something. Does that apply to you? Make sure your CPA and your financial advisor are good and understand what those rules and what's going on. And that's why I know you have a great team assembled there, Cory, working with tax professionals and looking at the big picture for your clients, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to, Tony. I mean, obviously, I'm going to have clients that pass away, and we want to make sure that we do what's right for our clients
and for their families.
And their families. And the best way to be able to do that is make sure they receive the funds as quickly as possible and they receive it the most tax efficient way.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're here to do, is to help guide our clients to make sure that they have beneficiaries set up the correct way on all their forms as well. We review that every year with our clients when we have annual meetings. Things change. People pass away, people get divorced. I mean, just in general, or maybe there's additions to the family. So we always want to make sure that our beneficiary forms are always kept up to date, because that's what matters. It doesn't matter whether you have a trust or whether you have a will. It's what's on those beneficiary forms. That's the way everything's going to go. So you need to make sure that your beneficiary forms are actually set up exactly the way that you want your assets to go.
Yeah.
So it's important to review that on an annual basis, because if something does unexpectedly happen, whatever on that beneficiary form is how things are going to be distributed.
Right. And what you're saying there is, and it's went all the way to the Supreme Court, the beneficiary designation on your accounts takes precedent over a will or a trust. So that means if you never changed your 401k beneficiary designation or IRA, and it's still got, you were married for a year when you were young and then got divorced, and you put that spouse on there and never changed it, when you pass, instead of your current family getting it, it's she's the beneficiary, no matter what you put in your updated will, the person on that ex-spouse is going to get that money if she's listed as the beneficiary, correct?
That's exactly right, Tony.
Yeah. See that that's a horror story, and you've seen it happen. We've heard the stories about it, and read it in the papers. It's gone all the way to the Supreme Court. So you've got beneficiary designations are so important, and that's where this whole discussion begins. Obviously, as the recipient of an IRA or inheriting an IRA or property or anything, you've got to know the rules. But it's good if the person putting you as a beneficiary communicates that with you, that, hey, you're the beneficiary, and keep that updated. Like you say, big life events, big changes,
That's
divorce,
exactly right.
Weddings, marriages, divorce, children, all deaths in the family, all of these things can impact that. Well, we're almost out of time, Cory. So before we go, let our listeners out there know how they can get a hold of you with questions or to get their own financial plan or retirement income plan in place.
Yeah, no problem, Tony. For our listeners out there, just give us a call at 614-760-0670, or you can always visit us online at safeharboroh.com. We're here to help and guide you to make sure you have the best retirement that you can. And the best thing to do is take advantage of our complimentary no financial obligation meeting with us. Again, we're here to truly help you to make sure that you have the best retirement that you possibly can.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much, Cory. And listeners, that does it for today's episode of Financially Fit Radio with our host, Cory Sickles.
Thank you for joining us for Financially Fit Radio. Don't head into retirement without a strategy that addresses both income and taxes. For more information, please contact Cory Sickles at Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors at 614-760-0670 or visit safeharboroh.com now. Join us again soon for another episode of Financially Fit Radio.
Investment advisory services are offered by Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors, LLC, and SEC Investment Advisor. Insurance products and services are offered through Safe Harbor Retirement Group, LLC, an affiliated company. Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors, LLC, and Safe Harbor Retirement Group, LLC, are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration, the Federal Medicare Program, or any government agency. All matters discussed during the show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.